Hey everybody, Jamie Kelly here. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Season 3 of the Approximate Podcast. Be sure to join our Patreon for only $5 a month to see all of Season 3's episodes in full HD video. That's patreon.com/approximate podcast. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. And to everyone who's tuned in, we love you all. And now, on with the show. Kitty! Fucking stop it! God damn it. Fucking cat. Yeah, you. Oi. Scrapple. Stop it. Alright, cut. We're done. Fucking cat. God damn it. Fucking Erica Cherry.
Hello.
Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, of course.
Here's what I love about this particular episode is that you're the fourth guest on the show so far. And
number 4.
Yeah. And you're the first guest that we've had that I actually, for all of our Vegas guests, because that's where we're recording in Vegas, that I've known the longest. I've only been here for 3 years, and I knew you about a year into my stay here, and we met shooting a trade scene for Transerotica. So that means I've known you for, if we count all the official time up, for about 2.5 years. We've been to parties together. We've gone to award ceremonies together. We've done a couple of scenes and have just had some hangout time in general. So it's really cool to have you on the show.
Happy to be here. I think it's cool. I love podcasts.
We've even done a podcast together.
Yeah.
We did this is the weirdest thing in the world. We did an entire podcast in LA. It was an assignment that was given to me by my press agent. It was cats. It was a podcast all about cats, and it was the most nerving time I've ever had because I knew it was coming up. I knew we had 2 or 3 days to prepare, and the whole time I'm thinking about how is a cat podcast gonna work? I have about 5 minutes of material to talk about my cat. What the fuck are we going to do to fill up an hour? And God damn it, by hook or by crook, we filled up an hour.
We did. You can talk about cats. I guess that's why they have a podcast. You can do it for a surprisingly long amount of time.
Yeah, I know, right? It was a really fun, odd, sideways experience. But yeah, we've done a lot of cool things together. And I know that we have something in common that maybe not a lot of people know about. We're both musicians. And not I produce, I make beats on Fruity Loops or whatever. No, you've been writing and recording music and writing songs for, I don't want to give away age or anything, but a long time.
As long as you could expect me to have been doing it, I think I have been doing it. In some form, we've talked about this before, but I've composed music for some independent films, a myriad of video games. I used to be the recording engineer for college, and now I'm making synth pop music. So it's just the latest iteration in my musical journey, which can never end because I'm addicted to it.
Of course. Well, I love that you bring up the synth pop thing because recently you have just released an actual, a song that can be found on Spotify. It's called Haunted, right?
That's right.
Tell me about Haunted.
Haunted was, oh man. So I've really been dialed into the sound of pop music that I want to have, which is sort of an 80s throwback with some modern influences as well. Haunted was just, honestly, I was falling back on a very, to me, tried and tested trope of synth pop with supernatural elements. And it always seems to just hit in a certain way when you do that.
Am I hearing elements of Thriller? Does that have anything to do with it?
Well, yeah, because when I think not the only one though, because there's Thriller, which is the one you would think of when you think of synth.
Right. Well, and just pop with the capital P in general, mixed with something that is supernatural. Of course, we all think Thriller. What was the like we're going to talk about the technicalities about this because I want to know your
Yeah,
process.
sure.
But like to get to the root of it, where did the song come from? Like in your core, like
In my
what?
heart.
Yeah, what were you writing about when you wrote "Haunted"?
And I sort of had a sapphic picture in mind when I wrote Haunted. There was just full of like, I was envisioning this sort of broken romance, sort of with this like paranormal element mixed in. This is pure fantasy. Some of my songs are based on my life. This one is not based on my life. This one's based on just wild fantasies. My mind goes places and I want to take you on that journey with me.
Yes.
So that's what Haunted is about. That's where that came from.
Oh, fucking sweet. I showed the track earlier today. I showed Stephanie the track, and she fucking loves it. That's like,
Oh, I'm glad you like it.
like genre wise, that's right up Stephanie's alley. What'd you think of it, Steph?
I liked it. Yeah, it gave me, 80s synth pop, exactly what you said. I'm really big into synthesizers, so as soon as I heard the synth bass, I was like, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
all right,
I have
I'm
a
on it.
saying, never doubt a trans girl with a synthesizer.
Or a guitar, right? We're all
a
about
guitar,
guitars
yes.
or synthesizers.
The synthesizer is something for me in particular because another influence in my music is just the Wendy Carlos, right?
Fuck yeah.
So
Wendy
Yes.
Carlos.
a trans woman who
Absolutely.
is
Innovator.
innovator
Of
of
the synthesizer
of the
in general.
synthesizer, literally built
Yes.
those instruments that I
Right.
use in my music.
With
right?
Bob Moog. Yeah, absolutely.
So I know that the Haunted, and there's gonna be so much that we're gonna get to, but I'm like enraptured with talking about music with you.
Yeah.
And so I want to know that Haunted is a thing that is available on Spotify right now, but it is forgive me if I fuck this up, but this is part of a larger project, right?
Yes, I'm beginning my debut set of songs as a performer, as a singer. Like I've done performance and singing in some capacity for a long time. But this is the first time I've taken it to a professional level, and well, to truly professional level. Felt that I've done professional work before this, but yeah, no, this is my like statement. I'm really hoping that the simple premise of just this, it's synth pop. I think I have developed a very unique way of singing and bringing that to life, expressing that sort of like nostalgia through the way that I sing, and basically, yeah.
It hits you on an emotional level.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going for about what, 6, 7 songs to put on an EP to make your grand splash,
Yes,
right?
That's right. I have a
that?
set of 7 songs are planned. 2 of them are released, Going Blonde and Haunted.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of both of them. They're both very clubby and dancey, but there will be a variety of types of songs. Most of them will be danceable.
Are you gonna do any like dance mixes of these songs? Are you
I
gonna go
hope so,
that
yeah.
ambitious?
Oh, yeah, the remixes, right?
I hope to do everything that I
Afterwards,
can
right?
do with this music. I'm incredibly proud of it.
yeah.
It's written in such a rigorous and produced in such a way that I'd be extremely comfortable handing it off to other producers and letting them do things to my work because I'm very confident that
These are
it
songs
deserves
that
to get
are
worked with.
these are songs that are ready to be made into a stem pack and to give to like anybody that can handle it.
Absolutely, yes.
And create like those
Yeah.
true club mixes.
There's
That's-
no limit to what you could do with the stems. I'm considering releasing them for free. Actually, I'm not sure if I will do that or not, but
I know a few people you can hand it to.
So, with that being said, I know a large part of your sound, and I know that the audience expects us to talk about a certain thing, but I'm still enraptured by the music. Synths are a large part
Yes.
of your sound, right? And I know that Stephanie has a lot to talk about synths,
I could go on and on and on forever.
right? Which is
Yeah.
exactly what we need.
do you have a favorite synthesizer then?
Oh, as far as like boiling down like actual like hardware, I mean, it's like, I don't
or
I'm not-
software?
Well, I mean, I use Vital for a lot of stuff
Mm-hmm.
on software because it's just free and it's very deep. But it depends on also what kind of synthesis you're going for. If you're going for FM or if you're going for granular, or if you're going for, I'm into a whole bunch of different kinds of it, and I'm still just like scratching the surface.
Sure. Well, I could share if you let me, I'd share my favorite synthesizer.
Yeah, please.
Absolutely.
It's the Kawai K1V forget which company, Kawai, obviously, K1V.
Yeah.
And it was a synthesizer that was really popular in Japan in 1988 in particular. And a lot of it is in that, some of the cheesiness from the synth pop music we were talking about earlier comes from this synthesizer.
Yeah.
So to me, I've been trying to find clever, subtle ways of inserting it into my music without turning audiences on too much. I know that it's kind of the same approach as like a hip hop artist when they go back and sample, like a city pop song. But in my case, I prefer to use that same tool, get that synthesizer.
You're replicating the spirit of the thing.
It's a different approach, but the spirit is pretty similar. Yeah.
Yeah. And it informs, it informs here's what I like about you is like, you're coming from a really true emotional place with your music. And that's what I hear. And like knowing you and hanging out with you long enough to where like it feels like you're doing exactly the right thing. And of course, there's going to be links and everything. And I'm going to implore everybody to listen to your tracks.
Thank you.
And this is why I want to like talk about some of the like behind the scenes about what you're up to, like how
please
it's
ask as many
created.
questions. Sometimes it's hard for me to remember everything that goes into it. It's like this series of because to make music, and you as a producer and a performer, you know this, it's more than just being able to do all these things. You have to be able to run a marathon with every song when you're wearing every single hat.
Every single
Any mistake that you makes it into the final product. It can ruin everything else.
Right.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
let's get the production. It's involved. It's crazy. You wouldn't believe how much goes into it.
Well,
Talk about it for days.
I know that like the people that listen to this episode of the podcast will be well informed once they listen to Erica's song. But all this talk brings me to this idea that like I know something about you that like Stephanie didn't know right away, and that is your love for and you're gonna have to help me out here. It's that like mid to late 80s or early to mid 80s
Well, honestly,
Japanese
that
electro pop. What do you call it?
the city pop, right?
City pop.
Yeah. Huge fan of it.
So yeah, like anybody that's listened to the track that is like hearing this podcast, once you hear it, the words city pop should resonate with you. And so like, who are some of your favorites? Where are you drawing like inspiration from?
City pop wise, I did mention one name before. I think Tatsuro Yamashita.
Yeah.
It's one of my absolute all-time favorite city pop artists. He still sings, I believe. He's been active since the late 70s, I think.
Really? Now I have a question because I am
He's also married to the woman, I can't quite remember her name, but she sang the song Plastic Love, which is the spontaneously viral song that kicked off the city pop revival.
I know exactly the thing you're talking about. Again, anybody that's listening to this is probably of a certain age and has probably already seen the YouTube videos.
Yes, Maria Takeuchi, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm pronouncing
I know
it.
exactly who you're talking about. But this brings me to a question because I am a woman of a certain age, right? And this, until I met you, I'm sure it was in the periphery of my experience. Mm-hmm. But I knew nothing about this. Uh-huh. And you know about this, and you are younger than I am. How did you find it? How did you find City Pop? What latched you?
Another name for city pop is YouTube recommendation core.
Jesus.
I was about to say, is this the stuff that has like the neon lights and like the road and shit?
Well, that's like future funk.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Future funk is what started. People would take city pop songs and speed them up and add more bass,
Oh, so
more
it's
electronic drums.
So it's like elements of nightcore and stuff like that into
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay,
And then, well, people listened to this, and this new sound was like, where are people getting this from? And these artists are coming out of nowhere with this magical sound, right? And, well, we go back a little bit further, and we find these city pop songs that are the basis of it, these really incredible jazz fusion, easy listening. I don't know. It's a really great combo. It feels sunny. It feels bright and optimistic, but it also feels cool, neon. It has that cyberpunk edge to it.
All those adjectives that you use, like that really hits my core because when I've investigated a bit of city pop, as it were, it is like yeah, like easy listening jazz, but electrified in some way that is like ethereal.
It's the synth. It's
Synthesizers.
that synth. I think I do know what it is. It's that synth, and it's that Japanese production of the 80s.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
When those, you can't, the audio quality that they achieved back then, just with pure engineering and how they manage their rooms and their spaces, is just way better than anything we do today, in my opinion.
For that kind of music, yes, like you cannot find a better version of it. You know, it's amazing. Now,
Are people doing recording music like that these days? Not too many.
I mean, you got to have resources to record it that way too. So a lot of people are making music just on their computer, however they can, you know. But yeah, you asked me my favorite synthesizer. I would say probably the Electron Mono Machine. That thing is just so deep and amazing, and that's synthesizer that one of my favorite artists used to like make her trademark sound, even though she could craft it on any fucking thing she wanted to.
Yeah. I'm really interested in applying that just a little bit of delicate cheesiness.
Oh, yeah,
to
absolutely.
songs. I don't know what it is. There's something, even sometimes in music, I prefer the cheapest synth over the most advanced or even a live recording of an instrument.
Oh yeah.
Just for that particular sound that you can't get any other way. Right?
You know, I have a lot of creative things to say about that very thing that you just said. Some of the quote unquote shittiest, thinnest sounds, they stand out because they're shitty and thinny, or shitty and thinny.
Yeah, that makes them very useful.
But it also helps as a songwriter
Cuts down your frequencies.
in your
Yeah.
in your composition
Stereo
and in
space.
your arrangement.
Yeah.
Because if the sound is like that sound alone within the confines of arrangement sticks out so well, it actually helps you scoop out and like build around that sound, which makes it like so important because we can all have synths that have that sound and bury it in the mix because we want everything happening all at once. So when you come into contact with sounds like that, it's actually an unknown learning experience because that kind of like, I need this sound emotionally, bam, that sound. Then you scoop around that sound for its passage. If it's a lead line, if it's a melody, it actually helps your songwriting a great deal to find a tone that you love so well. So yeah, I love to hear
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not a good synth artist. I'm a very good composer, and I'm decent at synth programming. So my approach is, in the 80s they used lots of the preset patches on
absolutely.
these really old synthesizers. So when I write my music, I do not program all of my sounds from scratch. I start from I have a huge library of presets, and I will start from one of those and then tweak it to meet my needs and adjust it. That's generally my workflow, and also I don't have time to be making up these patches from scratch.
Right, because the song comes first.
I think a lot of times it holds people back trying to make everything from scratch. Because, I mean, that's kind of held me back. But I'm in love with sound.
You get caught up in the textures, and then
Well, the
you
really
don't see
way
the forest
to-
for the trees.
It's not really an authentic way to be an artist, I feel. I know that's probably a controversial way to think.
No, please. I like where you're going.
No, if now let me explain what I mean, because there's nothing wrong with making your own sounds, right? Nothing wrong with it. But when you are making a song, when you're making a composition, what you want to do is start with the idea of what you want in your head already. And that by necessity means that it kind of already exists. If you're making patches, you're exploring, you're looking for something that you may not know what you're looking for yet, right? But when you have an idea for a song, there's really no reason to be making that from scratch unless you're just the synth god, right? In which case, go ahead, right? But if you're not, and you can get to that exact same sound faster with a preset, it's like,
absolutely.
Then it's silly. I would say it's bad. It's bad production to be going into those details that you don't need to go into.
I'd say if it's not your thing, if that's not what you get off on, if that's not what you get off on, and you get off on the songwriting, that's like a total legitimate thing to get off on, and being a synthesist is totally a legitimate
yes,
thing.
I'm all about the songwriting and the performance.
Absolutely.
That's what I care about.
I think both of them have their space for everybody, like for people to get into it. Like I feel like being like somebody who's like more of a sound engineer or a sound designer or something like that, that lends its way to songwriting, but it can also stand in the way of it. So like, I feel like you need to have an idea first and then make your sounds around that. And that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, definitely. That's
And of
my
course, use
advice for
presets
anyone
if you
writing
want
a
to.
song.
Yeah.
I don't want to be super reductive, but I love that we're having this conversation because it seems to be a repeating theme that when we're talking about the adult entertainment industry, or we're talking about something that is also, creative, any creative endeavor, like we're talking about music right now, we're going to have people that look at this podcast and they're going to want to see what people are talking about, like do deep dives, and because there could be newbies. I always anticipate that there's newbies and they're looking for advice. They're looking for people that they look up to. And I love that we're having this conversation.
Guess you got to segue back into
It's not necessarily a segue. I just wonder to
No, absolutely. Though.
remark on
Let
it.
me scratch a moan over here, and then we can set right.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you, Stephanie.
What's that?
Like, what drew your ear to synthesis and like being so interested in synthesizers?
Oh, okay. So like my original love when I was a kid was just like synth lead lines of like probably like new wave or like synth pop or something like that around the time.
Yeah.
And that really caught my ear first off.
It's a story I hear a lot. That I heard 80s music. I heard new wave. I heard this funk, and then I took it to the internet, and it grew from there. This whole like
Internet helped everything grow.
it was really interesting to me because I remember during the 90s and during I wasn't remembering much during the 90s. I was a little young, but during the early 2000s and 2010 area, it was kind of very much not like the 80s at all. Like that was not cool music. Am I hallucinating that?
No, you're not hallucinating that.
There was a time,
Maybe that was just my dad.
There was a time, and it still is going on in certain circles of anti-nostalgia. It's only futuristic. You can only think of the future when you hear these songs. Like, where is music going?
The weirder, the better. Even if it was like,
not
just for the sake of being weird.
Not necessarily just the weirder, the better, but shit that like you might have thought it sounded bad. Like 100 gex is like a big thing right now. And like they kind of draw from like 90s and then they draw from like early 2000s and stuff like that. But they have this whole unique, silly, quirky, but also like really like legitimate singer-songwriter type music. Where like you can see where their influences come from. You can also see what they do with it and also how they don't take themselves that seriously. I don't know. It's just something that it fascinates me, the what's happening with music currently. Like I find the most exciting music to me right now is like the newest music being released.
Yeah.
And I've never really been that way. It's always been a lot I'm gonna dive back into these older records and I'm gonna go record driving and I'm gonna throw it on the vinyl and but
it does feel a little bit like there's a sort of, maybe this is just because I am doing music and you're doing music, we're in a bubble, but it does feel like there's some kind of energy in the music landscape. Probably it's driven by the fact that it feels like the industry is kind of like dead, or the old industry has kind of died, and there's a new one starting to start to build up again.
Yeah, I think it's streaming that killed the industry and like making the like deals with like big pop labels and stuff like that. But I feel like music still, like independent music still lives on like SoundClouds and like, like Mixclouds and things like that. Like all these smaller things where they don't really have to, have too much of a connection or resources or whatever to upload your own stuff. But then, of course, people are getting it on Spotify too. And of course, there's always problems with Spotify. There's problems with Apple, the whole pay and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, there's a whole issue with how do you get paid as an artist, and that's kind of one of the motivations for me going into the industry, because I'm not entering it in with just I want to do music. I'm very interested in the business side of it. Okay, so if you need to switch topics,
no, it's not switching topics. No. It's that I have a very small thing to say to
that.
Sure. And that is here's I come from the world of live bands, anything that concerned a guitar. Okay, the way that we've always made music, at least for the many, many years that I've been a active musician, you make music from live performance and merch sales. That's
Make
how you-
money from music, from live performance and our sales. Okay.
Yeah, that's how you make money. What did I say?
Well, most
Make
of the
music
case,
from live performance and merch.
Oh, I meant
that's still
money.
largely how it works.
I meant money. But yeah, I mean, it still goes hand in hand. But the thing is, when you ask about how to make money, how do like performers and artists get paid, it literally, brass tacks, comes from live performance and merch sales. When it comes to selling records, when it comes to disseminating information for a certain price point, it's always been the case of you're so big that you can get on a platform like Spotify or something, and if you're a huge enough name, you'll get some money from that. Or it just all goes to a record label.
Yeah.
And we know that record labels aren't necessarily a thing for like thriving young up and coming new voices. It has to be, a predetermined thing. It's very insular, the record
That
industry
is
right
probably-
now.
That's the problem with the music industry, right? Is because there is like, how does a new talent? All of the artists who are currently touring, we've seen them forever.
The frustration of what we're talking about right here is what is
Lack
your
of a pathway.
But-
what is your definition of success? Now, the whole
true.
landscape has changed. We cannot live in the past where you could just play a bunch of fucking bars, and if you had the best songs, an A&R representative would sign you to a label, put you on tour, sell some records. Like, that shit is gone. There is
Very
no
gone.
way
Very
to
gone.
make money by simply selling your music.
I think that
You can't put a roof over your house, or you can't put a roof over your head doing that shit.
I don't think so.
yeah,
You have to
selling
tour,
records is
you have
pointless.
to sell merch.
In this current
Yeah.
era that we're living in. Selling records,
Yeah,
there's
you're gonna
no
sell.
point.
You're gonna sell
Except
downloads.
under
it's pretty much
certain
for
very
merch.
specific
Sorry about that,
circumstances.
yeah.
No, that's okay. But that I honestly think one of the most revolutionary tools for an artist could be OnlyFans. That sounds weird, but sex and music have always been kind of
Absolutely.
connected.
I mean, in certain cases, it can be a peanut butter chocolate situation,
This is the trend in the entertainment industry I'm seeing in general, where I think the artists have to do a lot more because the tools make it possible for us to do
I
more.
think what happens, and I don't know, tell me I'm a cynical asshole, but if you simply write a song that resonates with, a large group of people, what happens is you have the avenues to show the music. That's already taken care of. People have seen you. They like it. You're not going to make record sales. You don't have to go through the extra step of mixing it with a other proven format that has nothing to do with music. You simply get put on fucking stage and you sell merch. I think it's the same thing. I think the only thing that's changed in the music industry for like original artists is that you don't get the record sales. But you still have to do the work by A, writing a good song that resonates with everybody, and then B, putting yourself out there on tours.
That's my main goal, is to go out there and be performing this music live. So
I have a Stan Twitter account, and I follow a lot of smaller artists on there, and a lot of them follow me back too.
yeah.
But anyways, if you're not getting on playlist, which is one of the big things right now, is getting on playlist, and then of course you got to make playlist friendly music to get on playlist, unless it's a certain kind of playlist and you're part of that. But yeah, it's still touring and it's still merch, but the smaller artists can't always sell out those places, can't always make enough money make enough money to travel from touring alone. So
Yeah.
they just eat up all their profit while
Yeah.
they're traveling.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say one definitive thing about this topic, and that is, and it's just in any form of entertainment, music, porn, being on TV, being an actor, whatever creative endeavor it is that is for the sake of entertainment and trying to capitalize on it. I think it's the same thing that happens across all tiers of the ladder. Okay. I think if you have something that resonates, You don't have to spend a million plates doing all the detail work. I think what happens is if you have a thing that resonates, I don't care what it is, acting chops, writing songs, whatever it is, being a porn performer, you have something that resonates, all the mechanisms come to you. All the plates that we spin as we're trying to like quote unquote make our way up, all that stuff is taken care of for you once you do the one thing that proves that you're, sellable. And then everybody else takes care of the websites and the selling and the this and the that and the now
really
now
true
you're not booking your own tours.
Well-
People are putting you on tour.
Well, that's when you like hire a promoter, you hire things like that. Like,
Sure, for ancillary
Like, it's
stuff,
part of your-
but
it's
like
part of your team
all
at
the
that point.
delegation is provided for you once you become profitable. And how do you become profitable? Write something that resonates with the people, and then that's how the business works.
I mean,
It's not a meritocracy, is what I'm saying.
it is and it's not too, because there's a lot of songs that resonate with a huge amount of people that didn't make much money.
In a perfect world,
That
here's
artist
how
is
here's
still
how the
starving.
Hollywood
Yes,
story
I have
works.
personal experience with that.
In a perfect world, here's how the Hollywood version works. They quote unquote, you put in your dues and you do a bunch of stuff on your own so that you can make the one thing that slipped through the cracks that everybody loves, and then the people with the deep pockets, they take care of the rest. And that's what it is to make it. That's in porn, that's in music, that's in being an actor, that's in being an artist of any sort.
So you're saying
a creative person.
So you're saying
That's
once
never really how I've approached things. I'm maybe I'm more stubborn. If I feel like I want something, I'm gonna try harder to like engineer it and make it happen.
What I'm saying is it's a crapshoot, and all you can do
Can be,
is
yeah.
be as honest with your creativity and how it relates to you as possible. And then once you throw it on the wall, any spaghetti that sticks, and anything that doesn't, you should just be happy that you got to speak your most honest truth, and a few people will like it. And then those are the fans that matter.
Oh no, absolutely. I feel like any artist, any actor, whatever, should be doing this stuff originally because it's in their heart, and this is what they want.
Or it's because it's an addiction. You can't.
Yeah, but it's in your heart. That's it. That's an
If
addiction.
you're compelled to do it and you never stop doing it, something will come your way that will approximate your idea of success, and then you just fucking have to live with it.
So what you're saying is when you get backing from somebody, that's when you've made it.
If that's your definition of making
Well,
it.
that's what you said.
My definition of making it is like,
Well, I have I want to make money, right? I want to make money with music, and I want to perform, and I want to do tours. But how I end up doing those things is up for grabs. I mean, I could see a world where I become successful through the internet because these are nostalgia kind of bait a little bit, and I don't get to tour because people aren't interested in that. Maybe I could see a reverse situation where I don't do that good on the internet, but because it's nostalgia bait, I get to perform, I get to tour. So I guess the thing is that with success, if you have something you want, define it, go for that, but also be as flexible around that.
for the gears and mechanisms within the industry that you're involved, but never be flexible about your honesty and your truth.
Compromising
I was going to
yourself.
bring all this back from 15 minutes ago to say
fair.
the one thing I forgot, which is when it comes right down to it, and use this as a metaphor, anybody that's watching or listening, it really does come down to 3 chords in the truth. That applies as an actor, that applies as a graphic artist, that applies as a comic book writer, that applies as it doesn't matter what creative field you're in. 3 chords, a foundation and your personal truth, and then you just don't stop doing that. Everything else is ancillary, and then if you throw something at the wall one day that happens to stick, everything else, from the corporations and the things that define monetary success, will propel you forward.
But we may not need a corporation if we just do everything ourselves.
Just
I mean,
again, it
given
comes
another
down to
10
your.
years, and I'll have robots that can help me put on a show by myself. I won't need a corporation.
Also, indie pop is like really big, like
Yeah,
big
yeah.
moving
Oh,
right
there's
now.
so many ways,
Caroline
yeah.
Polachek and
It comes
I'm
down
very
to
bullish. Power through any challenge I find. Right.
it comes down right to the thing he said just about 3 or 4 minutes ago, which is, you define your own terms of success.
Yeah.
Because if you hold yourself to too high a standard and you start to think about the wrong things, you stop worrying about the stuff you're making and you start worrying about the dreaded quote unquote making it. And that can put you on a wrong path and eat up your brains and eat up your emotions.
I watched a video on this exact topic today, and this guy, he was making a project that he was like, no one's going to give a shit about this. I just want to do it. And it took him a lot of effort to do. Like, he went across the country filming like stuff to go along with the music and stuff like that. But one of the quotes in it, I think he started and ended it with, we don't do this to like leave a lasting impact or to be like the most successful or whatever. We do this because you want to have a full life to yourself, and that's what you love to do. You don't do it because anything outside of that. And if anything outside of that comes, then it's just gravy.
Yeah, the notion of a particular kind of success can absolutely distract you from living in the moment and doing things that like feel authentic. Authenticity is the name of the game. If you ever catch yourself worrying about something that has nothing to do with your authenticity in the auspices of trying to quote unquote make it, you need to take a step back, take a breath, because you might be kind of fucked.
Then I've also, you also hear a lot of times that expectation is like the killer of like creativity. Like, it really is. Because like, if you start expecting stuff, you're like, well, why did I even fucking do it? Because I'm not going to get it.
Yeah, it's really, it'd be difficult to get past your own desire to be perfect, right? Because then you just are like, oh, I can't do it. You stop. That's difficult because there's such a fine line between giving it your all, doing your best, and also knowing what your limits are, what is the best that you can do, what is like foolish to try to attempt to do, right?
Absolutely. This conversation is hitting so close to home because this notion of expectations. Again, I think I can generally speak for all of us when I say that everybody sitting at this table is a quote unquote creative. We love making
I'm
stuff.
an artist.
I'm an artist. And as such, we, just because society doesn't like creatives, we're essentially considered useless. So we find it really hard to, essentially like put a roof over our heads because we'd rather spend our energy creating rather than flipping a burger or, not that there's anything wrong with flipping burgers or, feeding people or being a part of the fundamentals of society.
No one flips burgers anymore. Wendy's is done with that. White Castle's done with that already.
I'm not saying that there's anything.
Gone.
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with not being a creative person. Of course not.
Well, you got to have an audience.
But for those of us at this time where we're creative, it can become really tough when all we have to do as creative people is compare ourselves to others and gauge certain levels of success and then try to meet our like own aspirations as a person that just does the creative thing, that has their hands on the clay. Everything about it is so tough. And they wonder why creatives and artists are always drunk and drugged up and,
Yes, well, and there is something, I want to say something about success, if you would let me, because there is a level of you need resources to make art.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you need a lot of resources to make great art. And so that's the thing, that every artist desires to make great art. And deep down, do we really care if it's the most popular thing? Probably not. If it's honest and it's what we intended to create. No artist would choose that over fame or whatever. But well, somewhat.
I think great is like, it's a very subjective word. Like, so like, I think great art can be made from very little resources and just like, Jamie said 3 chords and the truth, That's very true.
Okay,
once
that's
you get
true.
the
I'll
backing,
accept that was pretty
I
misworded.
can say, but along with what you were saying, once you get the backing and resources and stuff, you can only elevate that art more and more because it's your voice, it's your
Well, for
vision.
example, my passion,
Yeah.
right? I like to make music. I like to make funk. But I'm not a rhythm guitarist, and I'm not about to learn. In order to make that kind of music, I have to succeed with it in order to be able to do the type of music that I really want to do, which is what I am doing now, but also with more music, more musicians, more
Right. You're
realness.
as a person that's big ideas, you're painting with a broader brush.
Yeah.
And also you're still, because you don't have as much resources as you like, you have to do all the little bits,
Yeah, so
before you
there's
start
both
delegating
things,
and paying
we do what
for.
we can with what we have, and
Lots of hats.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's something. There's some incredible things made that way, and definitely artistically valuable. I don't know. To me, there's that, and then there's also this is the best of what humanity can do, like as a group effort kind of thing, and that's always what I've desired to be a part of. Success in music to me, it doesn't mean money. It means that, right?
Yeah, it's so weird.
a
Like
part of the
art has
creative sphere.
become
Being a part of that highest tier of art that that we reach the standard and we push it again.
The thing is, art has
next
become
generation.
such a commodity for like widespread distribution and like consumption that I yearn for the days where you just like there was one weirdo that stuck out and some lowly king off in the far land said, "There's a weirdo that sticks out. Now I'm going to commission their entire life. I'm going to write a blank check and they're going to get to do whatever they want to
Creative
just
things,
be
creative
a
houses.
creative person." And we are so far removed from the Mozarts and the Bachs,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the difficult thing with art these days is we have all this information. I have access to Mozart and Beethoven. I've studied them. I have access to every artist and all of their work.
Yeah.
But do I have the time and the resources to be dedicating my time?
Well,
But then also, you don't want to emulate somebody else. They've already done it. It's already been done before. You
No,
wanna
but
do it
that's
in
not
the
what
way
I
you're
mean.
doing
But there's a certain amount of like, music was Mozart's whole life.
it. Oh,
right?
absolutely.
It's everything to him, and
here's something
it's
that is
dedication to achieve that.
Go watch
level.
Amadeus.
Yeah.
here's something I want to say that is like very specific to the three people that are sitting at this table. We do have one thing. We do have one thing that can help us kind of scratch that itch. And that is we are still, and I've said it before on other podcasts, but everybody in this room is a performer. And we work in the adult entertainment industry. And we are, by all means, the lowest rung of the entertainment ladder.
Right
which
underneath
means
reality TV
which
stars.
means that we still are
One
able
step fewer.
we still are able to utilize, where we stand to draw in income and capital to help propel our other higher minded creative endeavors.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think this is a big part of how music should be monetized, honestly, because if you're hot and you're a musician, we were always doing that. We were always, saying, "I'm being sexy today. Give me a little bit more money," right? So I think that music, I think that OnlyFans, I think that sexuality and these different aspects of entertainment, my theory is that with the rise of AI and other technologies, that all of that is going to sort of start to merge into one
Blend,
sort of
yeah.
entertainment miasma rather than before where it's like we had a music world, we had a video world. Might have to get ready for all of these things to become.
And as,
Same.
We may have no choice. It's just going to be the natural progression, and we're just going to have to navigate our way through it.
It's going that way because all of people's art is being fed into machine learning, and AI is popping out these things that
It's
are.
not something I like. I don't like it.
I mean, I can see the appeal of it, but also it's kind of cheap, But then also, like, I feel like
I
if an
view it as
artist-
something we have to get past and as a necessary, because we live in a certain situation, And where music has a specific power over people, right? But it has to be applied to people first, like people have to let it into their brain, to their mind before they accept the influence of the music.
Right.
And it's getting to the point where there's so relatively easy to create something that's utter trash, right? And just the fact that there's trillions of trash and then one diamond in our, people who take the real care to go and craft their music, right? So to me, it feels like the algorithm is sort of like distracting us. Like, I don't want to do all these other things with the music. I don't want to have to make a video, right? But we have to, right?
I feel like when AI can be used positively, it's when an artist acknowledges that and they're using it for their own reasons and they're not being exploited by the machine taking in a bunch of different things on its own.
I think as the technology progresses too, and it gets easy enough to make a music video or for these different things, then a real artist can simply choose what they want to do. So, for example, if I'm a musician, I can focus on my music and then I can have something a little bit more generic as the music videos in order to stay competitive and things like that, right?
Right. So I'm going to have to be the bad guy here. I'm going to have to make a segue, but it does play
Please.
into what we've been talking about. It does play. There's a lot to process here, but let me rein it back in and go from all of us being on the lowest rung of the entertainment ladder real quick, because we've had an amazing, fascinating conversation here, but we got about 10 minutes.
Okay.
So
yeah.
allow me to try to rein it in for a little bit of something outside of music. I'm so glad we had a music show. This is amazing.
We didn't talk
by
about
the way.
porn at
Sorry
all.
for monopolizing it all about me.
No.
I'm all about music,
No.
though. It's
This
just how I
is
am.
fantastic. This is great. But I do want to say for people that might be watching, just to see Erica Cherry,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you just one fundamental question. We have
Okay,
lists of questions for this kind of thing, but let me ask you like one fundamental question. How did you get into talking about the lowest rung of the ladder? How did you get into the adult entertainment industry?
Webcamming.
It all started from webcamming.
I started from webcamming, and I started by sucking my own dick on camera.
That was that your big selling point?
Well, that was how I managed to get a little bit more traffic than other people at that time. So I was able to grow. I funneled it into social media.
Forgive
It was
me,
very clever.
baby. Forgive me. I want something a little deeper. What got you onto webcamming? Were you just sick of life? Were you working a million Joe jobs and you said something has to change? Or
Well,
what
it's
was
a little personal,
Oh, okay.
but it's well, I didn't have a great family situation, and so that was just a way to get enough income to get out of that in order to transition.
This is I don't want you to go into
No, it's
details that
okay.
you're uncomfortable
I'm
with,
happy
but
to.
this
I'm happy
is
to
a
share this.
very common story
Survival
amongst,
means, yeah.
especially
very
folks
common.
in the trans community. We've
Sex workers
very
in
sad.
general, a lot of times it starts from survival needs.
Yeah, so no, it was survival for me too. But I'm more than a survivor. I'm a fighter. So I survive, and then
And you're
grow and move on
ambitious.
to the next thing. Yes,
You're an ambitious person. I very much respect that about you. You don't sit on your laurels. It doesn't seem like you're even doing this. Like we've talked about this on the podcast before. You're not just seeking validation. You have a goal. You have a plan. And I know it might seem a little more every day is wow, which path do I go? What do I got to learn? What do I got to do? And it seems harried in the moment.
it can be overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming, but you're ambitious enough to see it through, and getting into webcamming was just a way to
I
plant
have
a
an
seed.
idea, and I don't know. I heard this from a Prince documentary. I think they said that Prince had this attitude where if he was going to fail, it wasn't going to be his fault. That's the way I like to think about it. He didn't have a great situation either. A lot of people who are successful didn't have great situations. If you're dedicated enough, I hope that you can push through and find real great success financially, commercially, all of it. I'm comfortable with the possibility of failure, and that doesn't stop me. But if I fail, it's not going to be my fault. That's how I look at it.
A, I love this. B, this actually drives me into a way to wrap this up. I love that people actually got to hear like where you started from
Yeah.
in the adult entertainment industry because it is very relatable.
I'm sorry we didn't have more time to talk about it.
We're gonna have you back, honey. We're gonna have you back.
Yeah, please do.
Part 2, we'll talk all about your porn.
Yes.
But I want to be able to like allow you to give 3 words of advice for somebody that's just coming in. What are 3 words of advice that you'd give to somebody that's just dipping their toe into this industry?
It doesn't have to be 3 words.
Only 3 words? Okay. I can
Well,
say whatever I
like
want.
3 bits of advice.
3 bits of advice. Well, I want one little bit of advice, I
Okay.
guess, and that is just in general. Never make a goal that depends on someone else to do something. Because, like you said, we got gatekeepers around. We got this and that. Everything preventing you from success. To me, that is if your version of success depends on the acceptance or somebody else choosing you, then I'd say that's bad. Don't set yourself up for failure that way. Instead, organize yourself around what do you want to do? What are the things that you can and want to accomplish by yourself with the resources that you know that you have? So when you push that envelope like that, it's guaranteed that you'll get that next to the next level, right? From there, do it again.
Do it again. Yeah. So what I'm hearing here, and I love
over
this,
again.
is
My
that
strategy for success.
right. Don't let one missed gig destroy your entire, ambition. Don't.
Yeah. If some director doesn't want to hire you, doesn't notice you, no sweat off your back, no deal. Keep working on your own stuff. Improve your look. Improve this, that. Maybe it'll happen later. Maybe not. Doesn't matter.
There's always another gig. There's always something that you can do yourself, which teaches you a lot of stuff and gets the job done. Somebody will appreciate it. Somebody will pay for it. And it gives you something to put out there.
I can
for
guarantee that if you keep doing that, especially in this industry, and if you do your work at a consistently high quality, then everyone will want to work with you.
Yeah, you just keep striving, and you don't let a rejection destroy your world. This as people in a creative field, we know that it's more rejections than acceptance, and if you can see your way through that, you're fucking golden.
Yeah, you meet with so much rejection, not just in porn, but in music.
In all creative endeavors, yeah.
Honestly, it gets a little surprising when you hear yes, but it does happen. It does happen.
All right. So with that being said, Erica Cherry, thank you so much for coming on the show. We got to have you back as soon as possible.
Please.
We can there's so much for us to talk about.
Yeah, and I had a great time. Have me back anytime.
Absolutely, sweetheart. Steph, you have anything left to say?
No. Thanks for coming through.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for listening and for our Patreon viewers watching the Approximate Podcast. And we'll see you on the next show. All right. Goodbye, everybody.